Hello guys, thank you for tuning in to Red Door Conversations, Real Talk and Real Tea. I'm your co-host Lisa White, and with me are my sisters in real estate. I'm going to start off with the lovely Tana Young.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How you guys doing?
Wonderful. Next is going to be the lovely Miss Kimberly Dixon Dudley.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, looking good. And last, we have the lovely Marla Lewis. How are you today?
Thank you, ma'am. I'm good.
Awesome. Guys, everybody need a squad like my real estate squad. These are the ladies that I go to if I have questions about something. If they don't know the answer, they know somebody that does. And that which brings me to our guest today, Miss Jasmine Quinterly. So, today's show is going to focus on appraisals. The title of it is, What's Your Home Really Worth? So if you've always wanted to know what is your home worth, how do they go about assessing value to your home, this is a show that you don't want to miss. Miss Jasmine Quinterly is an independent real estate broker and appraiser she's been one since 1976 with G.K. Coleman and Sons. She determined that appraisals was her passion and she pursued that wholeheartedly. She specializes in commercial, vacant land, residential, and industrial. Presently, she is serving as fee appraiser for the City of Houston, Houston Metro, the Federal Housing Administration, and the Veterans Administration. Guys, we welcome to the show Miss Jasmine Quinterly. How are you, Miss Jasmine?
Hello. I'm good. How's everybody?
Wonderful. Wonderful. We want to thank you for being a part of our show today. The goal, Miss Jasmine, is to enlighten our viewers on the importance of appraisals and how appraisals are assessed. So we want you to sit tight, and we'll be right back after commercial break. Thank you so much for tuning in to Red Door Conversations.
Welcome back to Red Door Conversations. Thank you for joining us. Today's show topic is appraisals. It's about appraisals. We're going to be discussing what your home is really worth, and we have invited the expert onto the show, Miss Jasmine Quinterly with G.K. Coleman and Sons Appraisers. So we are going to be diving into the topic of how we assess values. What is an appraisal? We answer that question, one. But before we do, we've got a red hot topic we want to share, and then we want to get our experts' opinion on it. Red hot topic on appraisals, y'all. A couple months ago, a Florida couple received 2 appraisals. One was 40% higher after they removed all traces of their ethnicity in their home. And so we're going to play the video, get their perspective, and let them share their story. And Miss Quinterly, we'd love for you to share your thoughts and ideas on this video and what this couple might have been experiencing. Let's play the video.
It's certainly no secret that home ownership is the pathway to building wealth in America. But what's hard in the Bay Area is even harder for some.
And tonight, a look at the growing inequity in home ownership rates in the Bay Area. ABC 7 News race and culture reporter Julian Glover has the story of a Marin couple who almost got cheated out of $500,000.
You know, I mean, it was work, but it was exciting.
Paul and his wife Tanisha Austin felt like they captured a slice of the American dream in 2016 when they purchased their first home together, this original Marin City pole home. But it wasn't without challenges.
As soon as like a house came on the market, you go in, you put your bid in, and then you get outbid it by like 100,000 or more rather quickly. And that can be, you know, a little bit depressing.
They bought the home off market from another black family hoping to make homeownership a reality for a young black couple. After moving into the home built in the 1960s, the Austins staged major renovations, adding an entire floor and more than 1,000 square feet of space, along with a deck, new floors, a fireplace, and new appliances. Then they got it appraised.
I read the appraisal, I looked at the number, and I was like, this is unbelievable.
The family tells me the appraiser was an older white woman, and they're convinced race was a factor. The home appraised for $989,000, just $100,000 more than the Austins got it appraised for before they started the work, despite $400,000 in renovations.
It was like, you know, it was a slap in the face.
The Austins immediately called their lender and pushed back. After a month of escalating their complaints, they were approved for a second appraisal. When the date came, they got creative.
We had a conversation with one of our white friends. And she was like, no problem, I'll be Tanisha. I'll bring over some pictures of my family. She made our home look like it belonged to her.
And it worked.
So it appraised for 1.482.
Yeah.
Which was 50% more than what it appraised for by a couple weeks prior.
Almost 1.5, $500,000 more.
The Austins were outraged and believe this is another ugly result of larger systemic issues.
There are implications of the ability to create generational wealth or pass things on if our house is appraised for 50% less than what is valued at.
We know discrimination is in nearly every aspect of the home buying process, and really we need to be addressing it as an industry.
Discrimination in the housing market comes in many forms and has a long history in our country and in the Bay Area, leading to alarmingly low rates of Black Americans owning their own home. Black home ownership lags across the country, with less than half, only 44% of Black Americans owning their own home in 2020. Compare that to 74% for white Americans. Looking at the Golden State, just 34% of Black Californians own a home. In the Bay Area, those numbers are even lower. Just 33% of Black San Francisco residents own a home, compared to 61% of white San Franciscans. The numbers are more drastic in San Jose, with a Black home ownership rate of 31% and a white home ownership rate of 65%, more than double.
Why are we seeing such a great disparity?
There's still problems in the housing industry of Black people being steered away from white neighborhoods, even though that is technically illegal, or Black people not having the same access to mortgages that white people have.
According to the National Association of Realtors, Black applicants are rejected for mortgage loans at rates 3 times higher than that of white applicants. Another factor suppressing Black home ownership.
African Americans have nearly double the amount of student loan debt than we see for white homebuyers. So that's just one of the many hurdles that African American homebuyers are really strapped with and holds back their buying power.
And the pandemic has made things worse. The representative from NAR stressed closing the homeownership gap is essential to closing the wealth gap in our country. To make that happen, equity in housing and access to affordable homes must be the central focus. The Austins agree.
If we are aware that implicit bias exists in other systems, police, school, why wouldn't they also exist in the housing market? And then what can we do to, fix that?
There could be help on the way in the form of 2 Biden administration proposals. The first would extend $15,000 in down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. The other, a $100 billion fund to update existing and create new affordable housing. Covering race, culture, and social justice, Julian Glover, ABC 7 News.
All right, so now that you have had an opportunity to view the video, and we've all viewed it together, Ms. Quinterly, we want to know what your thoughts are. What are your expert thoughts on this video and what this couple might have been experiencing?
Well, it's unconscious bias, it appears to be. We recognize that an appraisal is an opinion of value. So every appraiser who comes to a property will offer their opinion. There are scientific steps that each appraiser takes, but everybody brings their biases, their thoughts, their experiences to the appraisal table. So it is not unusual that the appraisers will come in with different values. That big a difference is unusual.
That's a huge.
Yeah, that's a big
very
difference.
huge difference.
That was a big difference.
Yeah.
What was
That's
it
a
like?
big
40%, you said 40% higher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a whole other home.
Exactly.
So I guess I
Make
was
it simple.
curious what they may have been seeing and what could have been. I'm playing devil's advocate here, but what could an appraiser have seen? Even if it's a value difference of 20%, what could an appraiser have seen to make the difference in valuation that different?
Well, one of the things that the appraiser is charged with doing is selecting properties that are comparable to the subject property. That means a property that a typical buyer would use as a substitute if this property was not available. What typical buyers would choose. So the appraiser can use properties that are directly around the property, that have the same influence of streets and schools and amenities, pool and community amenities in the area. But the appraiser could choose properties that were further away but had the same square footage or was built by the same builder. And those properties could vary in price and give the appraiser different value indicators.
Got it.
Those are the kinds of things that could happen.
Wow.
However, it's always best to do location, and if you pick location, then it's very rare that your value will be challenged.
Wow. Now, Ms. Quinterly, I do have a question for you. What are the 2 to 3 things that you look for when assessing the value of a property?
The first one is location.
Okay.
The second one is location.
Okay. And the third
one is location.
Location. I knew you was going to say that. Location, 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 right?
Wow.
Location.
That's what we
It
learned in
makes
real
a
estate
difference.
school.
If you think about a property and you think of the influences around it, where it is located in proximity to local shopping, regional shopping, jobs,
That's it.
freeway,
That's it.
ingress and egress out of a neighborhood, its location or its proximity to schools. All of those things really have an impact on the value of a property. And you can see within a neighborhood that the properties that are near the golf course, that have a golf course view, will have more value, be more in demand. People will pay more for them than properties that are 2, 3, 4 blocks away from the golf course, or too close to the school, or too far away from the school. All of those things have a major impact on the value of the property, because we can't change location. Where a property is where it is.
Yeah, it is.
Now you can change the improvements,
Right.
but it still takes me an hour to get to the freeway before I can get to my job. The improvements to the house lessened. Whereas the houses that are closer to the freeway that I can get on in 10 minutes are more likely to
That's
thrive.
interesting. That's
Hmm.
that's
Well,
very
that's
interesting.
good to know. I've always
I
wanted
would
to
never
live
think
close to
that.
the freeway.
Yeah, I would never think that the distance to, the highway or whatever would have an impact on the actual value of a home.
But I have so many clients. I know you have a question, Marla, but let me say, I do have a lot of clients that are very particular, and they request being close to the highway,
Especially
beltway.
those that are probably relocating here to Houston, right?
I mean,
Because
or
it's so
if they have
spread out.
kids and have to get them to places
That's
quickly.
right.
Yeah.
Because of the traffic, so much that we deal with here in the Houston area, I definitely have to live closer to the freeway.
That's it.
And people are requesting, like you said, Lisa, I'm getting
I get
the
it a
same
lot.
thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I get it a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Ms. Quinterly, let me ask you this. What are some things that people think will have their home to be worth more than what you as an appraiser would assess it to be? What some things, I hear people saying, well, my home has this. What are those things that people think will make an impact on their appraisal, but it really doesn't?
I am so glad you asked that. One thing that appraisers run into is granite countertop.
I knew it, and I said that to someone this morning. Yes.
I'm sending this. I'm going to send this
Granite
recording to my client.
Granite countertops, people put in, 4 feet by 2 feet worth of granite, and they believe that they have added $30,000 to $40,000.
Yes.
30, 40.
Interestingly enough, when granite first hit the scene, maybe 25 years ago,
Yes.
when you put in granite, then you were, it was unusual. Now granite is everywhere. Even a rent house can have granite countertop. So it does not have the novelty that would make someone pay more for the house than one without the granite. Because even if you bought a house that had a Formica top and not granite, you can go down to Home Depot, buy granite, put it in, and within less than 30 days, you make your house equal to, if not better, than the house that already had granite. And if you go through MLS, and someone says that they renovated the house, what's the one thing everybody's put in?
Granite countertops.
Everybody has granite.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. So we're gonna take a quick break. We've been talking with Miss Jasmine Quinterly. She's giving you the answers to your questions about what is your home really worth. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. And we are back. You have been watching Red Door Conversations, Real Talk and Realty. Thanks for staying with us. We've been talking to Ms. Jasmine Quinterly of GK Coleman GK Coleman and Sons Appraisal and Realty. She's been giving us valuable information that you need to know. What is your home really worth? Ms. Quinterly, before we went to commercial break, you gave us something that most people think bring value to their home, but it really doesn't. Can you give us one or two more maybe that people think brings value to their home, but it does not?
One of the other things that happens is the pool, exterior improvements. Sometimes people want their own pool, and so they may spend $60,000, for instance, to put in the kind of oasis in their backyard that they desire. But if there is a community pool, then that means there's a burden of ownership because you will pay for two pools, one in your backyard and you're going to pay for the one down the street. That doesn't always add value.
Burden of ownership.
The other thing that can happen, even with pool, if you spend $60,000 to put it in, remember that it does cost you money to maintain. So all buyers are not interested in spending that kind of money to maintain their personal pool.
And it increases
so that does not always add value. Another thing that may be considered is extensive landscaping. Landscaping is great, gives curb appeal. When you drive up to the house, you're like, oh, I can see myself coming to this house. But that may help you sell it, but it may not add value. And I know people who spend $25,000 on the landscaping in and around their house. There is some benefit to the slab or the landscaping, but you may not get a return in value for the money spent.
That's a lot of money.
With the landscaping. It's best to keep the landscaping minimal. Especially if you're trying to sell a property, rather than go overboard with it, because the appraiser is not going to give you much value for your investment in that landscape.
Now, Marla, what were you going to ask her again?
Well, what I was going to say was, you've given us a few things that will not add that value. What are some things that you as an appraiser would say would add value, that you would recommend that people do if they wanted to?
Great question, Marla.
Yeah, so let me hear it.
Regular maintenance on your property. That is very important to keep your property competitive and comparable to the properties around you.
Ms.
When it's
Quinterly,
time to replace the roof, when it's time to replace your central air and heat unit, your appliances, those kinds of things really go a long way in attracting a buyer and attracting value in the appraisal process.
Now, Ms. Quinterly, you cut out
your maintenance.
Ms. Quinterly, you cut out on us at the very beginning of your statement. You said it was regular maintenance. Is that what you called it?
Yes, regular maintenance.
Okay. And examples of that
was to maintain the property.
Got it. And so you're saying that that does increase value.
That's
yes,
what the homeowner would have to do.
Absolutely. That's it.
They do that yearly maintenance, so they, it's going around the property once a year and looking to see if there's any cracks that you can seal up and,
Ms. Quinterly, I call that doing the heavy lifting.
That's it.
When a seller replaces the roof and HVAC system, they've done the heavy lifting for the buyer.
Now, Ms. Quinterly, can you explain the process when a seller has an appraisal done and our buyer has an appraisal done and it comes in considerably lower than what the contract sales price is. What is that? What are the options when that happens?
If the appraisal is less than the contract amount, then the buyer or seller has one or two options. They can adjust the contract to the appraisal. They can renegotiate. They can ask for a appeal of value, or they can walk away.
Okay.
Remember, the appraiser is not trying to validate the contract. The appraiser is an independent contractor, and we are, I guess the best way to describe the appraiser is like an umpire in a baseball game. We have strike zone between the shoulder and the knee, and we need to come in the middle range of what a typical buyer would pay for in that neighborhood. So if you sell it, and that's what happens quite often, real estate agents are really good at selling. This is what the seller is asking. You are, you want to get this house because there's a lot of competition for this house. The buyer makes an offer, but the appraiser is not to rubber stamp that offer.
Got it.
Appraiser goes in and determines this is what typical properties sell for in this neighborhood. And based on where typical is, this is where your property should fall.
So what have you been seeing happen in our current market as it relates to this particular situation happening? What are you seeing most in our current market?
There's always a disparity in appraisals when we talk about racial bias. And you all know that all the time, because as I go into properties, I see where the property has been staged and all the personal decorations have been removed from the property. It looks like a showroom, right? So many agents are doing that on a regular basis. But one of the things that we are seeing now, there seems to be a lot of competition between existing houses. And so buyers are scrambling to make those, get in those properties and make those deals. So they are taking the deal without the contingency of the appraisal, without the contingency of an inspection, to make their offer better than the competition in bringing in a contract so that they can win the bid, as it says. Then, if the appraisal comes out and the appraisal is less than the contract offer, many buyers have to come up with money out of their pocket to make it work.
Okay.
That's fine.
That's what we're seeing.
But remember, when you resale, the values may not have come up to the price that you paid for.
Wow.
We're going to ask Ms. Quinterly some more questions, but we've got to take a quick commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, guys, we are back, and we're here again with Ms. Jasmine Quinterly. And I have a question for you. This one's been on my mind for a while, so I'm happy you're here. Can you tell us how are VA appraisals different from FHA and conventional loans?
Certainly. VA appraisals are governed by the Department of Veteran Affairs. Okay. And they cater to the veteran. They want to make sure that the veteran gets what he wants in housing. So the minimum standards for VA are different from FHA. So the veteran can say there are things about houses that I like and there are things that I don't like. And so the appraiser has to value that. If he doesn't want carpet, his desire is not to have a safety rail, he can do that. And VA is very cognizant of post-traumatic disorders and recognize that there's some things that appeal to veterans that don't appeal to the general public. And so they will allow for the veteran to have that say. FHA, on the other hand, because the down payment is low and the criteria for qualifying for the loan is lower. The FHA wants to make sure that the home buyer gets into the property with the least amount of repairs on the horizon.
Yeah.
So they do have the appraiser inspect the property with a little more care and looking for deferred maintenance, issues that would have a buyer invest in the property in the next 1 to 5 years, so that he can get in and get settled, making that monthly payment and not have to make capital expenditures right away.
Yep.
So there is a requirement for FHA appraisals to be pretty tight in terms of the condition of the property.
Okay.
Conventional loans, because they are lower risk to the lender, put that 20% down or the larger down payment. Many of those buyers have disposable income or more income, and they are able to handle repairs that could come up. So many of the repairs in the conventional loans are considered cosmetic. So the property needs painting, whereas FHA and VA may say, yep, you need to paint it now before the buyer comes in. Under the conventional umbrella, the buyer can say, it probably does need painting, but I'm not going to do it now. I can do it with my income after purchase.
Okay.
So those are cosmetic things that conventional loans will allow, and some of the other loan programs, VA and FHA, don't think is a good idea for their market participants.
Wow. Can you believe, guys, just like that, we're out of time.
Yes.
So we're going to have to go ahead and end this show, but we want to thank you so much, Ms. Jasmine, for coming in and giving us the information that we need to convey to our viewers. We really appreciate you being here. We wish you a wonderful rest of the day. And we here at Retro Conversations, we're out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.